missing a beat. Yeah. Boy, was it neat. Yeah. Not just neat, but she was totally neat when she did the freak with me. Never missing a beat. Yeah. Boy, was it neat. Yeah. The girl's a freak. The girl never misses a beat. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not just neat, but she was totally neat when she did the freak with me. It didn't work, no.
Good morning, Nordo. Good morning, PA. Mitch here from South St. Paul. What if it was Quessie's plan all along to let Cousins' contract expire, knowing that Jefferson had an extension coming up? So he puts all his chips on the table, gets this top quarterback, so now he's paying him for 4 or 5 years while you can pay Justin Jefferson, and then we can see where the salary cap goes from there. Maybe he gets traded or whatever, and we can kind of see where that goes. But maybe that was his plan all along. Thanks, guys.
PA, Nordo, Trevor, and Mankato. I can't wait for Burstich to meet McCown and try and get that $10K back that he lost from that playoff game. I think we should probably think about trading JJ. If he doesn't want to be here for the long haul, I think we need to dangle that carrot in front of New England and or Arizona. What do you boys say?
And it was 26. Josh McCown cost the analyst $26,000 with that Nathan Poole piece. Welcome back to 9 to noon. Ben Goessling, who covers the Vikings for the Star Tribune, StarTribune.com, is with us now. And it's too bad to a certain extent, definitely to a certain extent, that like gambling, betting, I'm not, in fact, all right, 3-2. Let me start over. How much do you know about betting?
Not a whole lot.
Thank you. Okay. All right, 3-2. It's quasi-unfortunate with sports betting on the horizon. Mm-hmm. The horizon being a vast and ever-expanding horizon. So maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, maybe tomorrow, maybe next year. That you don't know more about the gambling aura. Simply for Nordo to do a parody for a podcast you could have that would go, Benny and the Bets. Benny.
Guessing with Goessling?
There you go.
The best. But Benny lost a bet.
By the time this becomes legal in Minnesota, I probably have enough time to get up on this.
Yep.
So
that's beautiful.
There's
put it
probably
that way.
enough prep time for me to. We could still make this a thing.
Well, what if, Ben Goessling, probably maybe our most buttoned up guest. So 6 months into sports betting, things go the wrong way. Yep. Suddenly you start looking a little bit like the 9 to noon host, and the shirt's open.
Thank you.
And all of that. It's a tough industry to get into.
Why you keep looking at my chest? You look at my chest every day. You comment on my V every single day. Stop staring at my chest, or I'm going to go talk to Emily about it.
You have like an SOS pad sticking out of your shirt.
Eric continually is looking down my shirt, and I'm quite uncomfortable with it.
Just like you said for years about touching the sides of other men, I challenge you to go to HR and make that statement.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. But Benny lost a bet but Benny won a bet.
There we go.
There's so many sides to it, but like you would have to know what a teaser is.
I know enough to just be dangerous.
What about a pleaser?
No.
Parlay?
Sort of.
Prop bet?
I had a friend that won on a parlay last night in the NCAA tournament. And then he explained to me what it was before he told me how much he won. So
what do we have? UConn to under?
Yes, that was it. Yeah, UConn on the under, and the under hit because
What's
it was
No, forget the number. What is it?
Just that you set an over-under in terms of the number of points that teams combine for in the game. Yep. And there wasn't a lot of scoring in that game, so he hit the under. He bet on the under, and it won.
We talk about so many things from a biblical standpoint. 98% of our lives, and I know your facial expressions, like when we're talking about Job, and like I watched this comedian last night. Like he was doing this bit with, like, my wife's over there.
Yeah,
can you just lay off for a second? It was really going to show it to you. It was clean. And I know your facial expressions and everything when we talk about certain gospel-centric things, or the Exodus being the gospel of the Old Testament. But then we go down the road of like parlays and over-under, your face changes.
This is a test for which I'm not prepared.
Yes, but it's okay because you're passing said test. Okay, so you know what a money line is?
Yeah.
What?
Well, that's like the negative 110 thing plus 165.
In the business, we call it minus.
Right.
Yeah, not negative
Whatever.
120.
I'm not in the business.
No, I want you to make money as supplemental income.
Okay.
Because this very well could be coming. I mean, who knows? But
so if it's a negative a minus 110, sorry, that means if I bet $110, I win 100. Is that right?
Nordo?
Correct.
Okay. So I'm close enough to be dangerous on that.
And of course, that would mean they are the favorite.
Correct.
So the minus line would be the favorite.
Yep.
The
Right.
plus money where you're.
It's like giving 6 points in a spread or something.
Right.
There you go. See, you're ready to
some
host
of
a
it.
podcast. Is what you're ready to do.
Well, we have already got the jingle.
got the name.
If Sir Elton will give us the rights to the song,
Yep.
it would not sue us. That would be helpful.
The idea is off
There's a problem with rights in music these days. We're figuring it out as quickly as we can.
And so are the headaches that I and we are getting. But nevertheless, is Nordo, when they played at the College Stadium and they walked off against the Jets, Nordo had a brilliant parody. It was Teddy. Oh, that was from McKinnon. Was it Jet McKinnon or Teddy beat the Jets?
I did it twice. Yeah. I did it Teddy and the Jet when they got Teddy and Jerick McKinnon, and then it was Teddy beat the Jets.
Yeah,
with the walk off to Jarius. The only problem with that is that I didn't have the rights to that song,
right?
And now 20% of my paycheck for another 3 years, I think, before it clocks out.
Those are the rules.
It goes
Really?
to BMG. Yeah,
he played 20.1 seconds of it, and it cost him $6,000.
Yeah, the point one's my 401k.
Agreed.
Holy cow! I didn't realize they were that tight on it.
Tough times.
How did you feel Sunday filling in for Barrero went?
I thought it went fairly well. It was interesting. I feel like I learned a lot about almost sitting in that chair more than sitting in this one, just because trying to hit the brakes and line up segments to a way that doesn't bleed over, or you get everything that you need to get out of a guest, or all of that kind of stuff. That part was the trickiest part of it, but I think it was a good first run. I feel like I would do better with it on that part of it the second time.
Benjamin, Benny and his best. Ben. Okay, the guy with 3 chins in the corner. Any words, phrases, or thoughts you wish you could take back?
Any words, phrases, or thoughts that I wish I could take back? I'll have to go back and watch the tape. I'm sure that there will be things that pop up when I go back and listen to it again. And, assessing it right afterwards is probably a little difficult. It's been a couple of days, but I need to go back and watch and listen to the tape one more time. And I'm sure there's always things you can improve.
BG, Ben.
Can we go to the guy in the corner?
Yeah.
Hey, what was it like talking about the Boston Marathon on the radio?
It was fun. I mean, that one, honestly, I felt as comfortable with that segment as anything, because
it was your wheelhouse.
It's very much in my wheelhouse, yes. The Vikings are talking Wolves. That took a little bit more research, because I'm so much in a Vikings tunnel, but the running stuff was very easy, and it was fun to pick care of Goucher's brain selfishly about Boston Marathon tips.
Okay, time for 2 more. Ben. Benny.
Let's go over here to the guy with the hair.
There were reports via social media, so not official reports.
Yeah.
That between you and fellow scribe Alec Lewis, who hosted a show earlier in the week, Monday at KFAN, that your camp was saying a response to that performance will be that of greatness. Do you feel you came through with that response Sunday in response to Alec's hyperactivity the previous Monday?
That's for you guys to decide. My job is just to go out there and give 110%.
Yes.
And I feel the guys in this room know what we did. And for you guys, you can make all the rankings you want. You can speculate all you want. That's your job. That's what gets the clicks. I understand that. Yep. But I just tried to go out there and do my best for my team that day.
All right, last one.
Ben.
Are you giving your best when your best is required, Nordo?
When you were sitting in that chair on that particular day in that particular time slot, did you sense at any point in time some sort of aura of pessimism?
You know how reporters and columnists are? They want the controversy. They want the negativity.
Give it to us.
Meaning, sitting in that spot, did I feel I needed to live up to said aura? Yeah, I suppose a little. I feel like I aped a little bit of the mannerisms. And there was probably a little bit of a Barrero, because I've listened to Barrero for a long time. So there were probably some things that I was doing subconsciously that, I did tell somebody I felt a little bit like a Barrero cover band in spots when you're coming into Al Green. Yeah. And I didn't do the, this is your, insert your thing here leader thing. I wasn't going to do that. But I felt a little bit like that sitting in that spot. So, yeah, there was probably a little bit of that aura floating over the whole thing.
And I understand said aura, there have been days recently where I'll be talking to people outside and I'll be like, Van Ginkel, Grenard, Aaron Jones, let's play. What a wonderful, wonderful off-season piece of work by Kwesi Adofo-Mensah via free agency. Then I sit in the chair and it's like, he's an idiot if he doesn't trade Justin Jefferson if Jefferson doesn't want to be here. Yeah, I said it. Yeah. So it's the chair. It's not the heart or the person.
Sure.
Ben Goessling at Ben Goessling via Twitter. He filled in for Barrero on Sunday sermons, and he'll get an opportunity to do more of that. Did a fantastic job. Any idea why Spielman went to splashing, guaranteeing the Vikings would trade up for J.J. McCarthy, then suggesting they trade Justin Jefferson? Any idea? I mean, that's out of body for him.
Yeah, it is a little bit. I don't know if he has intel. I don't think the Jefferson thing is going to happen. I just don't. And maybe I'll be surprised by that, but all of this speculation, I get it that the contract's not done and they have to figure out the quarterback stuff, and there's reason to say until it's done, all of these things are fair possibilities. Now, Rick also is a guy that traded away a couple of receivers for first-round picks in the past, so he has some experience in that area. No intent to do it, but ended up doing it because it just, I suppose, just happened with Percy Harvin. But the J.J. McCarthy thing, I think, is legitimate. I think there's certainly a possibility that's what they end up doing, because I have said it. I said it Sunday. I've said it on here. I think Drake May is somebody they like a lot. I do not think it's Drake May or bust. I don't think they've looked at this quarterback class that way and said, we have only one guy that we can be happy with. And the reality is, to get him, you may have to get up to 3, probably, if the Patriots want him. So if that doesn't happen, if the Patriots say, this is our next guy, this is our successor to Tom Brady, and you can't move them off of that, you still have to have another plan. And I think there are a lot of quarterbacks in this class that they think can be successful NFL starters for a long time. And I would not be surprised.
More than a handful?
We can define it how we want.
Well, no, but a lot. I said it before you got here. I'm like, hey, deep wide receiver draft 2020. You got 16, 17, you got 12 to 18 who get second contracts. Deep quarterbacks draft, you get a handful, maybe 6 or 7, 8 who get second contracts as high-level backups or starters.
Yeah, you're right. And it's not going to be a lot because it's never very easy to do it. And it was interesting. So my dad sent this question in on Sunday, and I didn't get to it. And I thought back on it. I was like, this is actually a really interesting question in the pace of, there's all these texts coming in, and how do I get through them all? I didn't see it. But he said if they were to draft somebody that was Dante Culpepper level, is that a successful pick? And you always go into this thinking,
good question,
it is a really good question. I thought it was pretty thought-provoking because we always think this has to be the 15-year guy. This has to be, somebody who's gold jacket immediately. And if it's not, it's a failed pick. It's like, well, maybe, but if you get somebody, especially if they're good on that rookie contract, we've seen teams go to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo, Jared Goff, who are not going to be gold jacket type players, but if you make a run with one of those guys, especially when they're cheap, is that a successful pick? I don't know the answer to that. I think if you're going to make the move that it would take to get up there, you certainly want somebody that is going to be your answer to Patrick Mahomes, go on down the list. But if you get somebody that is able to be successful for 6 or 7 years, is that enough from that spot? I think there's going to be a lot of discussion on that. A lot of people may have different opinions on it. When he said it, it's like, that's a really interesting exercise because do we set the bar too high on the quarterback thing? There were 102 quarterbacks drafted in the top 10 in the Super Bowl era. I looked this up on Sunday. 52 have been to a Pro Bowl, so about half. But then I think it was 13 that had ever been a first-team All-Pro and only 8 that are in Canton. That number will go up with Mahomes and Burrow and some of these guys. But there is a much higher chance of getting a guy that is Pro Bowl level a few times than there is getting the guy that's going to just change your franchise forever. So where do you hit the standard, I guess, is the question.
I don't know how much or how closely you listen to either the CBS podcast with Spielman or him with Charles Davis.
Yeah.
For that 33rd team thing.
Mostly just saw the aggregated clips.
Yep, same here. And then Nordo played him back yesterday. But when he said they are going to overpay to move up in the draft to take J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah.
Emphasis on they are. The Jefferson part was they should.
Yeah.
So we have conjecture. So we have steam. I believe it to be steam.
Yeah.
Or he doesn't say are.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
I think that's right.
You should. And so like the road we went down yesterday with Jefferson was if it's reported, I mean, you've said it here before, that there was a deal for Justin Jefferson that was not to his liking.
Yeah.
And that deal would have made him one of the 1, 2, or 3 highest paid, whatever, overall players in the NFL.
Yep.
Okay. So if he and or they, the constituents, chose not to sign that then when Cousins, a preferred quarterback of his,
Yep.
was coming off a boffo season and would get better the next year before the Achilles. Well, if that's the case, and now Cousins is gone,
right?
And it's shrouded in questions, not controversy, but questions.
Sure.
Well, then, if you don't think that he is going to acquiesce to any form of contract and work through whatever you're going to do next offensively, you kind of have to consider, in a couple of weeks, being like as hard as this is to swallow.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing in the image conscious game and world would be, how do we sell it? How do we sell it to the fans? You tell the truth. He didn't sign a contract that was this, and we went up here, and he wasn't interested in this. What are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's at least a consideration in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to discuss it. I don't think that's where their mindset is at.
Agreed.
My understanding is that they got, and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, I think, has said this, that they got very close to having a deal. I think it was a couple $1 million over the life of the deal, and it was more like, I want this, and it's really close to that, but it's not quite there, and it's still 2 years out, so let's not do it with something that I'm only 90% happy with. I think there was a lot of that went into the negotiations last year based on the conversations I've had, but you're right. He doesn't have to just say, hey, Sam Darnold, whoever it is, I'm good with it. I'm signing the way that the rest of my prime, because the guy's only 24 years old and has a long time yet to be productive. So he does want to know and has a vested interest in having a quarterback that can help him be as productive as Kirk Cousins was, which is why I think Kevin O'Connell has made a point to say, hey, this is what we're thinking. I'm going to keep you in the loop every step of this process. Doesn't mean that you get the final say on what we do, but I do think trying to keep him on board with the overall, we have your best interest at heart in this quarterback process is why Kevin O'Connell is making the effort to do that.
Agreed. And I think it's smart. A super long shot that he's not on this team for a second deal.
Agreed.
But it's not a zero.
Sure.
Where I might have said at one point it's a zero, that yes, he will be in proclaiming fashion, but maybe that it just incrementally is not the case right now. Now, to close this segment, is just with the things the former general manager said, which I think are pretty big, the way he executed it. I love Rick, and he was very kind and open with me while he was here. But to a man, had his predecessor said they'll overpay to trade up for a quarterback he then identifies by name, and then says, what other choice do they have?
Yeah.
That would have upset Rick Spielman greatly.
I think that's right. Yeah. I mean,
so that's why I'm saying, why did he do it?
Yeah.
There is a reason. I don't know the reason.
Yeah.
But he identified a name.
Yeah.
And of course, this isn't going to splash nationally because it's a 7-win operation, and they're paying attention to a lot of different things.
Yeah, it's a 7-win operation.
No, 9 to noon, it's massive.
Sure.
9 to noon.
For us, absolutely, yeah.
It's massive because of they will him, forget the overpay opinion, him, and then the what other choice do they have? I just think, with all due respect, and again, I'm very fond of Rick, and he was great to me when he was here. I think that's disrespectful, man, to the coaching staff here to say, whatever choice do they have? Oh, really? I mean, so they can't take Penix or Nix or Rattler or Tulane guy or whatever and do anything with it? How can you say that?
Yeah, it is an interesting thing. And the other point there, too, is that the scouts in that front office are mostly guys that he brought in. So, I didn't
think about that.
Yeah, part. There's still, whether it's Jamal Stevenson, whether it's Ryan Munnins, a lot of the scouts towards the top of that department, whether it's Rob Brzezinski in the cap department, there are a lot of connections there of people that still know Rick Spielman, still are very fond of Rick Spielman. And then, yeah, it does put everybody in a little bit of an odd spot, I think. But, yeah, that does become the game. You get out and then you can inject opinion or information, speculation, some blend of all three of those things into the process, and he's got the opportunity to do that now. He's got a microphone. So, yeah, it's always a little bit of a weird shift when you go from being the guy making the decisions to the guy commenting on the decisions.
Yes.
But
in a short amount of time.
In a very short amount of time.
That's Ben Goessling. And when we return, we'll land the plane on this conversation and with what former Vikings general manager Rick Spielman said. The Vikings will trade up and draft J.J. McCarthy. The question for the Scribe is going to be, is Rick right? We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Larry from Rockford, and I was just wondering what would have happened if Michael Penix would have won that national championship game. Would we be talking about Michael Penix in the top four and J.J. McCarthy as just a byproduct of losing the national championship, or would this talk still be the same where J.J. McCarthy is ahead of Michael Penix? I don't think we can go wrong either way, and we should sit back and take D and Michael Penix.
Nice talk back on a day that we are giving away tickets to the draft party at U.S. Bank Stadium 2 weeks from Thursday for a talk back that very well could win. But the way he framed it up was, if Penix had gone lights out and won that championship game, would we be discussing him differently? Not only compared to J.J. McCarthy, but just like discussing him differently? Yeah. For me, the answer would be no, because I know incrementally a little more about him now than I knew when he played in that championship game, simply by just not following it that closely. So for me, it'd be no. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's probably the case for me as well, because especially when you talk about accuracy as much as Kevin O'Connell does, that is one of the big questions with Penix. And would it fit in this offense? I still think that question would be there. And I don't think, certainly performances in big games stick out in the evaluation process. This is one thing that Rick Spielman used to talk about a lot, is that they put a lot of stock in how players played in big games, because it tells you what they do in the most NFL-like competition they're going to face, and also how they do on big stages. So those games do factor into the evaluation process. However, I don't think it factors so much into it that if he had played well, it would lead them to say, well, all these other concerns we might have, let's put those aside because he was really great in one game. I don't think that would tip the scale that much.
Yeah, I agree. And like quick twitch, for just having not watched a lot of what he's done, and I don't think you have either.
Yeah, not a whole lot.
Yeah, I ain't going to sit here and speak for you, but like if I were to speak for you like this, I'd say, well, I don't think he watches that much. A lot of things going on during the football season. He's a scribe, got to get Sunday pieces ready, then you got to travel, you got to write the gamer, come back, family, whole thing. But like quick twitch, Penix, injuries.
Yeah.
4 of them.
Yeah.
Okay, there was a transfer, but then the injuries, and then some things you definitely like about how he moves.
Yeah.
He's got a swivel. He's looking off safeties. there are definitely good things that you can share even in cursory fashion, not following somebody that closely. But, let's be honest here, is we may not come out and tweet, break, or go Spielman on it.
Yeah.
They're going to trade up. They're going to, forget the opinion part. They're going to trade up and draft J.J. McCarthy, probably with the 4th pick. We may be able to say something like that, but we don't.
Yeah.
So we're more reliant on people with whom we've established relationships, born of trust.
Yep.
And guess what? They know more about it than us.
Sure.
And you don't come out and say, so-and-so said this word for word. It helps you shape your opinion, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And that's a lot of the job, is trying to get as good of a sense as you can of what you think is going to happen from people that are closer to it than you are and people that know more about it than you are. And you try to relay as much of that as reliably and honestly as you can to people who are further away from it in the sense of they don't have the access that we have.
Yes,
so
beautifully said.
That's what the job, I mean, the singular of media is medium. So you are in the middle of the team and the fans, and your job is to convey information from that you learn from one to the others that want to know about it. So, I mean, that's what you try to do. It's not a perfect process, especially this time of year. It's never a perfect process. But yes, a lot of it is just trying to form as complete a picture as you can with interactions that you have with as many people as you can, and certainly the ones that you trust the most.
Very interesting the way you put that. The singular of media is medium. All right, so Benny G is a game-changing running back who plays in West Palo Alto.
Must be a different Benny G because it's not me.
It's Benny and his bats.
Doesn't have a quick stride because of all the distance running. Can't jump.
So you are a running back for the Stanford Cardinal. Well, what's the plural of everybody on the team?
Cardinals would be a bird, but I think cardinal for them is a color.
Yes, but I'm saying they are the Stanford Cardinal.
Yeah.
The baseball team is the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yes.
So when describing as an elite scribe, is the Stanford Cardinal an it or a they?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned this because this has been a debate at the Star Tribune for a long time because we have a singular team in this market. Is it the Wild or the Wild are?
Wow.
And I can't remember what our style is on that. I know it's different because I covered the Wild at the Pioneer Press, and the Pioneer Press's style on this is different than the Star Tribune's. I think we were the Wild is at the Pioneer Press, which is probably typically how you would put it. But with every other team, when it's a plural, it's Minnesota is, the Vikings are. And I think we do Minnesota is, the Wild are, not Minnesota is, the Wild is. So it's a weird.
But the Wild is and is.
The Wild is and is, and I think AP style would be that it is and is.
Yeah.
But we have changed it and said it is an R because that's how we do all of our other teams.
Yeah.
So I think it's where we landed on that.
Does AP style, Associated Press style, still have goodbye as BY? It could be BY or BYE.
Yeah, I typically just write it as BYE.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And finally, your thoughts on dangling prepositions.
Dangling prepositions.
And here's how I ask it. Say you're tweeting. Say, because you're not going to write in a gamer, he can go back where he came from.
Yeah.
But a columnist might.
Right.
So it's not AP style. In the business, we call it the English language.
Yeah.
It technically is he can go back to where he came from, or are you he can go back whence he came?
I typically go the third door with that. I don't do the
Whence
super stuffy sounding phrase, but I also the other ones. I'm enough of a word nerd that the dangly preposition annoys me, so I just typically find another way to say it. He can go back to his home, or
you change it.
I just change it. I just take the other door out of it typically.
Yep, for sure. All right, time for one more. Ben Goessling. By the way, speaking of writers, good piece by Scoggins chatting with former Gophers defensive coordinator Joe Rossi about quarterbacks Drake May and J.J. McCarthy. Nordo shared some yesterday. What did you pull from it?
Yeah, glad you brought that up because that was one of the things that I had on my list of things to get to on Sunday that I didn't get to. So good chance we get a second round at it, both with my dad's question and Chip's column. So this worked out very nicely.
Do you often find when you are preparing a game script, you have an elite play on said game script, like the Scoggins piece, and you don't get to it?
Yeah, I mean, you go in with a plan. You have all these ideas of what you want to do, but obviously those guys get paid too. I don't know who the other guys are in this analogy.
Sure you do,
but
Ben. Sure you do. Thomason used to work for them.
Yeah, the clock gets paid, and the ads have to be read. So I mean, you have to adjust. A lot of this game is about making adjustments.
So what are your thoughts
on the column? Yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. He felt like if you're going to have a drop back offense, I think that was the big takeaway for me. Rossi basically said if you're going to play a drop back game, Drake May is your guy. If you want to go more play action RPO stuff, a little more structure to help the quarterback, he thought J.J. McCarthy was better. That I thought was pretty interesting because they certainly have a lot of that in their offense. They have play action stuff, but you do need a guy that can drop back and rip it. So, that's one opinion, obviously. That's one guy that has faced both those quarterbacks. It's not maybe the abiding opinion on the whole thing, but I did find that interesting because that comparison would say to me that Drake May probably fits better than McCarthy. Now, do the Vikings share that opinion that Joe Rossi shared? That's what we'll have to see. And how much do you adjust the offense if it is, in fact, J.J. McCarthy? But that was, I think, the interesting takeaway of that story for me was that comparison that he made of how they fit in those particular offenses.
Do 30 seconds, you get it all. So with Spielman's proclamation 2.5 weeks in front of the draft, do you think he'll be accurate? Do you think he'll be right? They'll trade up for J.J. McCarthy, or are you not far enough down the road yet to commit?
I'm not far enough down the road to commit. I do see the challenge of getting to Drake May. If, in fact, you think you have to get to 3 to get him, I do think that's going to be more difficult. I think the Cardinals not needing a quarterback, that may be an easier spot to get to. So that may change what they're able to do. I think they have spent a lot of time with both of those guys. I know they are very fond of May, and I think they have a good opinion of J.J. McCarthy as well. But it may be easier to get to 4. So if it does, in fact, go that way, I certainly see that as a plausible option. Let's put it that way.
Dan Hayes from The Athletic around the corner on the Twins. Lastly, I can't forget to read this text for you that I got from my friend Lonnie Anderson, church friend, also runner. In fact, he's competed in mile events against Sebastian Coe.
Yeah.
He writes, give Ben my very best for the Boston Marathon. Remind him he will be running into prevailing winds. And he's done this.
Yeah.
He's done Boston Marathon many times, several times. Into prevailing winds the entire distance. So pick out somebody equally paced and use the drafting technique.
Behind him.
Yeah, and you'll be a beast.
That's a good piece of advice. I've gotten a lot of good little Boston tips in the last week. That's a really good one. So Thank you, Lonnie, for that. I'm definitely going to use that. Sorry to the guy that I'm going to take advantage of and use as a drafting partner the whole way through. But
why is Ben running behind David Ortiz? Makes sense. Love you. Good luck.
Thank you.
And stay healthy, and we'll see you when we see you, okay?
Sounds good.
Ben Goessling, beat writer for the Star Tribune, covering the Vikes. Dan Hayes covers the Twins, and he's next.
Oh, yeah. Whoa, 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 hey. Whoa, whoa, baby, 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 baby.
Hey, Dan Hayes, it's Paul Allen. How have you been?
Good. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for taking time to join the old 9 to noon radio show. Dan Hayes at Dan Hayes MLB of The Athletic and theathletic.com. Big Bad Dodgers are in town, beat the Twins last night at Target Field. And Dan, the man on the fan, erstwhile Disco Dan, chronicled the action for The Athletic. Well, with the local 9 virtually punchless into the night again, is it the quality of pitching early in the season they are facing, Dan, or just super slow to go with the bats and good morning?
Yeah, I think one, maybe the quality of pitching. Look, April, the ball doesn't, this is a team that likes to hit home runs, and they know the ball doesn't go far in April, and Rocco Baldelli, the hitting coaches, have been on them to try and shorten up their swings when the ball doesn't go as far, because you're not going to hit home runs unless, of course, you're Shohei Ohtani. But they've tried to address this. They have not done very well at it so far. The attempts have been there. The coaching staff has spent the last couple of weeks of spring training saying, "Look, we're going to do this early in the year. It's hard to score runs in April. You're just not going to hit home runs." And really, it has not. The players have not executed so far, and it's tough. Look, they're. You can say, they've had 4 off days in the first 11 days of the season. That is difficult to establish a rhythm. I do get that without question. But at the same time, the other teams are having kind of wonky schedules too. And, you look at Cleveland, they've handled days off here well. It just has not been a very good start. In fact, you could make a point that the best offensive moment they've had all season was the first inning of the first game when Royce Lewis homered, and then he gets hurt, and everything has been pretty rough since then. I know they scored some runs in Kansas City, and they won 2 of 3, and they had a nice comeback in Milwaukee, but it has been ugly. They're right now 26 straight plate appearances without a hit with a runner in scoring position. And the way you keep that going and at a low-key level was like last night where you just don't have chances. They only had 2 last night. And it puts everybody in a tough spot because, man, the pitching was great last night from Bailey Ober. That allayed a lot of fears, I think, with the fan base after his disaster in the opener in his first start. But, you're asked to protect a 2-1 lead against that Dodger lineup, and they turned to the bullpen, and they liked the matchup there with their lefty, and Dodgers had 6 lefties coming up in a span of 8 batters, and Shohei Ohtani found a way to flip a little double down the left field line, and Freddie Freeman hits a blooper, and all of a sudden it's a tie game basically. And that's how quick things can turn for a team when it's not going well right now. And boy, the offense it's miserable. I mean, you just look at it. There's a few guys that haven't had their first hit of the season yet. There's guys that are 1 for 20, guys that are 1 for 12, and it's 8 games in, so the sample size gets very skewed. You see it. If this was in June, you wouldn't know it nearly as much, but it's at the start of the season, and man, it's ugly and not fun.
Any weird reaction to Shohei Ohtani given the betting boondoggle?
I'm sure there has been. I'm sure there have been jokes made in the press box that I would not know anything about. But no, Shohei Ohtani is pretty beloved. He's such an incredible player, and we saw it last night what he can do. There's maybe some skepticism around baseball. I wouldn't be shocked. We did have the windows mostly shut last night, and so you couldn't hear crowd reaction. Have a better sense for that tonight, but I think the overwhelming sentiment is, boy, this guy's amazing, and fans just come to watch him and they're in awe of him. I mean, the way the opposite field home run he hit last night was a good pitch, and he's just strong enough to hit it out where most guys, that ball gets caught on the warning track, and he's just so big and strong. He is a fun player to watch, and he just started getting hot, maybe 4 or 5 days ago, and that's not great for the Twins because he can outscore them by himself without question.
Yeah, it's Shohei Ohtani who 3 of 5 with that home run. Of all the batters you watch on a daily basis, what makes him different?
You know what? The thing I like the most is the sound I hear when he off his bat. And there was a home run. I think it was Dodger Stadium. It may have been at Wrigley Field. I can't remember, but it was in the last couple of days. And I've heard it once or twice in person before. I think it was Anaheim, maybe his first year. The bat has a different sound to it. And maybe it's just a different bat that he uses. I don't know what the case is, but the ball comes off. He takes some swings that you're like, how does a guy make contact up there? And he drives the ball with incredible strength. But the fact that he can come back and beat, Steven Okert the way that it happened last night with the double, just flipping it. And that's the part that's kind of probably going to be maddening for pitchers is this guy is so strong. He has the potential to hit 40, 50 home runs. And yet he's a good enough hitter where Okert made a decent pitch and he flipped it and kept it fair down the left field line and started the game tying rally with the double. And honestly, I would say that pitchers would take that over getting beat with the home run every time because that ball usually gets caught, but he just finds ways to beat you, and it's so impressive.
Dan Hayes, The Athletic, covers the Minnesota Twins, writes about baseball at Dan Hayes, MLB. All right, so how about the Dodgers? They snag Ohtani for a bank-breaking deal. They also pluck Teoscar Hernandez from the Mariners, and he's pretty darn good. And it's just an embarrassment of riches out Chavez Ravine way, right?
Oh, yeah. Their payroll is like the GDP of a small country. It's ridiculous. And, they're in a fortunate spot. They draw 3 million fans every year, and they have a spectacular TV deal. And those things are very nice. That's some things. Look, they're an elite club, and about 5 clubs in baseball really can say that. Maybe we get 6, 7, where they get the fans no matter what, and that really helps. And the fact that Ohtani took the deal he did, where most of the money is deferred, they can take the money basically that they're paying him and invest it and know that they're going to pay him way less than they're actually on paper paying him because the value of money over time. Obviously they knew what they were doing with the deal with him, and the fact that he was willing to take that deferred money says a lot about him and his desire to win, because we're not going to see their pitcher that they got from Japan in this series they spent $325 million on him.
Jeez.
And we're not going to see him. They went out and essentially on two players spent $1 billion this year between Yamamoto and Ohtani, and that's a pretty crazy response to losing to the Diamondbacks in the playoffs. But that's what the Dodgers did, and they can afford it. And especially with Ohtani pushing the money aside, it allowed them to do some things. But it's weird. They still have flaws because Mookie Betts is a really good athlete. And, I mean, he's an incredible bowler. He's an incredible ping pong player. He was an outstanding outfielder, Gold Glove winning outfielder. And he basically said, yeah, I'll try shortstop. Why not? And that is weird to me that this team has this incredible payroll and that they're taking a first-time shortstop, given how important that position is. It's a nice experiment for right now, but I think, if they want to survive in the playoffs when everything gets tight, they'll need a real defensive shortstop there and, play Mookie Betts at second base or put him back in the outfield. He's doing a good job right now, but it's a long season. And, that's a tough position defensively, and it means so much to your pitchers. And I don't know why they went out and spent money on the way they did when they were going to go in with a flawed shortstop. But, they are by far the favorites in the NL and for good reason.
Perhaps a permissible press box joke involving the Ohtani/translator thing that's above board would be talking about the deferred money. Well, what's his deal this year? Well, I think it's $20 million and a parlay to be named later.
I always love that one.
I think you can probably get away with that.
I think so. And, I wanted to tweet whoever caught the home run ball last night to make sure that they, asked for some different, make sure that they got to keep their family together when security came to negotiate. I mean, It's weird. He has had an interesting start to his Dodger career without question.
Well, I'm watching an inning or two of their games at Wrigley, and Ohtani misses a home run by 3 inches. And if I'm a Dodger fan, I'm kind of like, well, that was a teaser.
I always love that one.
Oh, man.
I mean, it's barely.
Where's the rim shot with that one?
All right, last one, 1 minute and 14 seconds. You get it all. By the way, with Teoscar, I'm saying that right, correct? It's Teoscar Hernandez, yeah. So you got your main man Teoscar, and they got Shohei, and so on. And then the pitcher that you talked about for 325. Oh, by the way, they added the Rays, arguably one of their best pitchers, Tyler Glasnow, who goes today. I mean, are you in favor of a salary cap in baseball, or you're like, cool, I'm cool the way it is? And what's your answer?
I think more that we need a salary floor. I think that teams should be required to spend a minimum. I don't think what the Pirates and the Oakland A's do is okay. And you know what? The teams that can earn it should be able to earn it and spend it however they want. If the Dodgers are willing to reinvest, let them. Players are, it's the free market, all that. The players are more than deserving of getting this money that they help bring into baseball. So I don't want to see teams limited on what they can spend. I do want to see the bottom feeders be required to spend more because there's revenue sharing. And some teams are making out like bandits and they have for a long time. And it would be very upsetting to be a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, a Cleveland Guardians fan, an Oakland A's fan. Those teams just don't spend, and that's more unacceptable to me than outrageous, spending by some teams.
Elite, my brother. Enjoy the game tonight. Glasnow, Varland, Glasnow, and thanks for the time. All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. See you, bud. Dan Hayes. At Dan Hayes MLB via the X machine, the tweet machine. Always great having him on.
9 to noon.
Back after this.